Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you're joining us from. Welcome to Open Source Friday. Thank you for being here. We made it. We made it, team. We made it to Friday. I don't know about you all. I had a nice and spicy week. Very eventful, but very good. Lots of good work done. Welcome, Brandon. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Zumi. Welcome, Crepa. Welcome, Mr. Landini. I appreciate you all so much for joining Open Source Friday. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time to this stream, welcome. This is Open Source Friday. This is a show sponsored by GitHub, produced by GitHub, and hosted by an amazing team from the DevRel and open source teams at GitHub. And we're here just to bring you amazing projects, not just the projects themselves, but we get to talk to the contributors, the creators, the maintainers, and all the folks who are making open source keep on going. And boy, do we know we depend on open source. Welcome, Mr. Israni. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I love to know where people are joining from. So this is my favorite. Thank you for doing that unprompted. That is my favorite thing to read when I see where folks are joining from. From Jamaica, Miss Roxanne, I'm so jealous. From Cameroon, from India, thank you everybody for joining. What an amazing, we got a great team watching today. So I am joining you live from the west coast of Florida, where it's very warm. So salute and warm hugs for those of you in parts of the world where it's still very cold. But as I mentioned, Open Source Friday is a show where we get to highlight amazing projects. This project in particular that we have today has had an incredible story, a masterful pivot, really. So it's like really interesting to me also when like teams get started, they get to work on things and then they make adjustments. But they're doing something that is extremely timely. And I'm delighted to have the CTO of the company joining us today. For those of you who are not familiar with Mastra, you're about to learn everything that there is to learn about it. It's a great framework. And welcome to Abhi Aiyer, who is the
Hello.
CTO. Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time for being here. I appreciate that the team has been trying, we've been trying to put this together for quite some time. I think I met someone from your team at a conference last year. Maybe it was Render, or it's been a while. It's been a long
Yeah.
conversation. I'm in your Discord. I've been lurking. I've been using lightly. But thank you so much, Abhi, for taking the time to be here. I cannot wait for you to share what Mastra is about. So I know that it came from the Gatsby team, or maybe some of y'all were from Gatsby at one point. Maybe
Yeah.
okay.
Pretty
So if you could
much.
tell us, a little bit
Yeah.
of the origin story, like what problem were you trying to solve and how did this all get put together?
Yeah. So me and my co-founders, Sam Bugwat, Shane Thomas, and myself, we all worked at Gatsby for quite a while. Sam being a co-founder of Gatsby. And Gatsby was for those who don't know, Gatsby was an open source static site generator with React, and one of the first of its kind back then. Static sites were all the rage during the Jamstack era of our development careers. And we kind of expanded from static to doing other things, and eventually got acquired by Netlify, another
Mm.
prominent company in the open source world and Jamstack world. Um, Once we got to Netlify, it was a little, it takes some getting used to joining a new team, being part of a new product. And slowly, we all started to fade out and tried to think of what was next. Surprisingly, I was the one who left last from Netlify. I actually enjoyed my time there. Um, and Sam had pretty much stolen us out of Netlify with this idea of I want to build a better Salesforce, which is surprisingly how we're going to get to Mastra. Is a very surprising journey there. But he wanted to build a better Salesforce. And I guess we had the arrogance to think that we were the guys to do a better Salesforce. We tried building a linear like experience for doing a CRM. And we spent a lot of time building a CRM when this CRM was supposed to be an AI powered CRM. And the
Uh-huh.
reason we didn't want to touch the AI parts because there wasn't any movement in TypeScript in AI at the time. And we were kind of too busy focusing on things that we like, user experience and product and things like that. So when it came for us to go raise a seed round, pretty much all investors were like, "Hey, this is a AI CRM, but I don't see the AI part."
Where
And
is the AI?
we were like, "Oh yeah, if you squint a little, you might believe that it's there." Um, so taking rejection on the chin, we started trying to integrate those AI things that they expected, and we found it to be very difficult to get far fast when you're trying to iterate and experiment. So funny enough, I was visiting a friend in New York City. I went to his office. We work in financial district. I walk in. I was supposed to have beers with the guy, but I walk into a hackathon, an AI hackathon that was happening in the WeWork lunchroom. And so turns out he can't hang out. He's participating in the hackathon. So I figure I'll participate too. In doing so, it took us 8 hours, the whole day, to build a chatbot that can read PDFs. Now, that might seem so uh, really contrived today, but it was really hard to do, mainly because you're educating yourself for the first time how to do something, as well as putting yourself under a time pressure to do it. So we did it, we got it working. Pretty much most people were submitting Google Colabs, Jupyter Notebooks.
Yep.
If you ever been to hackathon, that's not what's going to win a hackathon. You need to have something cool. So we built like a Next.js app, and thankfully, having the web experience from before, our hackathon project looked very good, and we were able to win. And that actually made me really think that what if other people could get far fast, and something that took me 8 hours should take the next person 1 hour or even less.
Mm.
So Sam, Shane, and I, we looked at each other. We didn't want to do open source again. No offense to open source. We were just had done it for so long that it was kind of tiring. But then after going through this experience, we were like, we have to do this again because I think there is just a missing library or framework in the market to help people build AI. So that next day, Mastra was born, and the CRM was dead. Um, and since then, we started, from that moment, we started building what we like to call the primitives of AI engineering. And when we started, the primitives were not as much as they are today. It started with, LLMs, with tool calls and a loop. And then it has expanded to workflows and memory and MCP and skills and you name it. We are building the primitives for doing that. I'm sorry if this is a long story, but we got into Y Combinator shortly after our first release. Met so many agent builders in San Francisco. It helped really focus what Mastra as an open source framework should be. And since then we have our 22 cases GitHub stars. We have over 1 million downloads a month. Like people are really resonating with what we're building.
Yes, you have been on fire. I'm going to share the repository here. And for my friends that are joining me on LinkedIn, hang with me. I'm coming with the link that way. So, everyone, go ahead and go to the link and start the project, please. Let's get the project trending. I love Gatsby. I think one of the, I mean, multiple of the very first things that I ever did, like my first web pages were on Gatsby.
Yeah,
And then funny enough, I became like an Netlify fan after too, like obviously like
yeah,
that transition. That art of the pivot is so interesting to me. That's a whole conversation. We need to sit down and talk about founders and making those decisions because it's hard to shoot the puppy when it's like, you're like, but no,
exactly.
I love this thing. And then making the decision that open source is the way to go. I salute that. I know it's exhausting, and having had a project like Gatsby that such a long time and so impactful in the community, I know that comes with a lot of baggage and work and time and effort and tears, and sometimes
Yeah,
even blood. So
yeah.
I can totally get the hesitation there. So you got into Y Combinator, and then based on this hackathon experience, you build basically, you're like, okay, there's an opportunity here to build this framework. We're going to do it. And then you pick your stack and you build it. I guess you build it using, is it Vercel or no? Definitely in the Next.js framework, right? Uh,
For the AI pieces, we started with using AI SDK,
okay.
and that was a really good way to jumpstart everything. But AI SDK is a great library, but there's a lot of other components needed to build an agent for production. And
Mhm.
so then we started layering other open source libraries, and then started building some of our own to kind of complement the LLM piece of the puzzle.
Amazing. So now you're okay. So you actually have a lot more going on now. And so
Right.
if I'm a developer and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, I want to build an agent. I want to get started doing this. I need a framework that's gonna support my skill, right? Like maybe this is gonna grow into be a business, and they want to start with Mastra. Can you show us a little bit about the framework itself in action? Like I think as we kind of
Yes.
see a demo, we'll be able to dig into some more questions. And friends, if you're watching this and you have questions, please don't hesitate to post them on the chat. I'll be sure to read them for you. Go check out the Mastra website too. It's so beautiful. I was just complimenting your designer, like hazards.
Yeah. So I'll do the canonical weather agent example. I've prepared some other ones as well as the conversation gets a little deeper.
Perfect.
But let me share my screen, and I'm going to show just how people get started with Mastra. And I might have to like unshare to put a API key in or two, but we can get
That's
started anyway.
That's totally fine. While you're doing that, I'm gonna share actually, and this is when I met. And my gosh, I'm spacing out the name, but because you're either your co-founder or maybe it was all of y'all wrote a book, right? Or Sam
Yes.
wrote a book. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna share it because friends, I have it. It's a fantastic little like it's a good comprehensive look of how this works. And it is free. Thank you for that. I love that. I shared it on the link on the chat so that your friends can go ahead and grab it. And Mina, thank you for being here and to answer your question. Correct. This is open source. It's an open source library. Here we go. So I got
Yeah.
your screen now up.
Okay, great. So to get started with Mastra, you can run npx create Mastra at latest. And I'll zoom in for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know what this npm thing is about right now, but open source Friday. And I'll do in source. I could pick my provider. Let's use OpenAI. That's fine. And we'll
Okay.
skip the API thing. And this is kind of my first discussion point. When we first started Mastra, LLMs did not know about us. So we had to figure out other ways to help users use their own tools to write it. And at the time, Windsurf was very popular, Cursor was very popular, and MCP was a very new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did was we built an MCP docs server. So, once installed, Cursor and Claude Code and all these coding agents would know about Mastra via your questions to them. And then now we have skills, of course. So you can add skills to this. And we have different Mastra skills that allow you to write Mastra or let your agent write Mastra. Because when we started a year ago, people were still writing code by hand. But as we know, things have changed, right? So now our agents are writing code. And so you need to be able to do a lot of good context engineering for that. And skills are a great way to do that. So let's just go with that. And I'll initialize a new repository. Now we'll install the Mastra CLI. One very interesting feature of Mastra is we have what we call the Mastra Studio. It is a all-in-one place to build and test your agents. It's a nice companion to the code, and you can go and chat with your agents there. You can go experiment and have a lot of fun. So cool. Now we have this. So it's Friday. Now let me not leak my key real quick. So I'll go put this OpenAI key in, and then we'll be off to the races.
I love this. So you have your own interactive UI then. Studio actually allows you to like visualize this and do all the
Correct.
testing. That is pretty cool.
Correct. And maybe I'll take two of these keys and try all of them. Okay.
That is very
So
cool. And something fun about, and thank you for having the MCP also. And like MCP is not dead, friends.
yeah,
I'm
definitely
gonna
not
put it,
dead.
I'm gonna put it on a t-shirt. But you're one of the few open source or rather TypeScript frameworks that you ship both sides of MCP. Like you have it like both as a client and a server
Yes.
in the framework. Yeah. So yeah, MCP is not dead. All right. You tell me when you're ready for me to share
All
the
right. And then, oops, I'm ready again.
There we go. We're in.
So we're back in our project. I'll run npm run dev, which starts the Mastra development environment. And you can then go to localhost 4111. And now you'll see that you are in the Mastra studio. And we ship with this very canonical example of a weather agent, which I guess, the reason why people do weather agents, for example, is the tool call to get weather is a open source free API, right? So it's a
Yes.
very much easy thing to get started with. I set up OpenAI, but in Mastra, we have this thing called the model router, and it allows you to pick other models. So while I was off screen, I added API keys for Anthropic and Open Router. And so you can see here that we support many models. You just got to bring your own key. So it's not necessarily tied to a specific model provider. Let's ask, what is the weather in Miami, Florida?
Let's see.
So to call the weather tool, you have this diagnostics here. Miami, it's partly cloudy. Cool. And it should return soon, or I'm having some internet problems, but
This
we could also
is,
try.
listen, it's live. That's like
Yeah.
we know this happens. But while it's coming up, so you picked up two different providers, right?
Yes.
So you can add, you can add any of your model providers that you want. Um, but then are you able to pick what provider you use for what task?
Yeah. So everything in Mastra is dynamic. So
Oh,
I'm going to open up the
excellent.
code now. So I'll open up cursor. And oops, let's go into an agent here. This is our weather agent. Let me move this here. And I'll talk about the primitives a bit while building an agent. So our agent class is the main agent primitive. And what it does under the hood is it runs agentic loops. And how you configure it is, one, you give it instructions or the system prompt. Then you can give it the model. Here, we have magic strings in our model router, but you could also pass an AI SDK model. Or what you could do is you could pass a function and then return this. So we have this thing called request context. And you can imagine that if, let's say if the request context that the user, that get, and based on, let's say if it's Andrea, I'm going to then return Anthropic or that. So and this request context is where you can put this kind of uh, contextual information to then make those calls. A lot of these parameters are configurable dynamically. And I think that's very much a necessary thing in today's game. People are not using a single model for everything.
No chance.
Yeah, so I'll go put this back for now. And if we go back to our demo, it did respond, and that's cool. The next thing that Monster does, because what we learned early on is if you're just chatting with an agent, you really need to understand what's going on behind the scenes. So you can see in the top left here, we have traces. So this is what I just looked at. What is the weather in that? I can look this up, and now I have a full tracing view of all the things that happened. So this was the input, this was the output, other metadata that occurred, and different attributes on the agent. I can look at, the LLM call itself. You can see how many tokens it inputted and outputted. You can see the raw input and then the raw output. And I'm using GPT 5.1 mini, so it has reasoning state in it. And, that's cool. You can see all those things. And then finally, you have these different steps of the agentic loop. So this is, just returning the raw data from that. The next thing that we learned is with observability and traces, you need to be able to constantly iterate on your agent. And so that's when we built scorers. And scores are a way to run evals. And evals are very important. Not a lot of people do them because I'll be honest, they're very hard to do, but you should be doing them. And if you are doing them, you can run scores based on the inputs and outputs that are going to your agent. So for example, this is a tool called Accuracy Score. It's written so, if I'm asking for the weather, does it call the weather tool? It should. And that's what this score is trying to do. Then we also have other scores like completeness. Is the response complete? These are all we call code-based scores. They don't use LLMs to evaluate things. You can, to score anything, you can just write a function. You can decide what that means to you. You can use NLP libraries, etc. But there are some types of evals that are done by LLMs, and we call this in the industry LLM as a judge. So this translation quality uses an LLM to score the response from the agent using its own model itself. So this one scored 1 because usually in evals you want to score between either pass or fail, 0 or 1, and you want to leave less ambiguity to it. To take that, oh yeah, Lucas out for a question.
No, yeah, for sure. And let me take a look at the chat, but I'm wondering because obviously you just mentioned like evals are hard to do, right? And like scores, like this looks really simple, and letting the LLM sort of be the signal, was this good or not, doing like its own evaluation in a way. But are you seeing like people, is this something that people are using actively for their own evals? Like if they're making mistakes while they're setting up scores? Because I will imagine like there's a lot of noise too that comes with it. That looked beautiful though. Like that was like great, but I don't know if that's something that's implemented in the way that scores work. Would it actually help you keep more clean information that you like show you what matters?
Yeah, so it really depends on the type of company that is really going deep into evals. We have many big logos and customers using Mastra now, and the range of people doing evals is a spectrum. If you're in an industry that requires compliance, like law or healthcare, evals are being written religiously, mainly because you have people to answer to when things go wrong. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have many people building coding agents and personal assistants where the eval is the user's taste, right? If I built an email agent for myself and it did something wrong, I know that it's wrong because it's my email. I have a
Fair.
relationship with it. So there's like a big spectrum. Scoring is not an exact science. It definitely takes many iterations to get right. And so to kind of build what we like to call it the scientific method of having a hypothesis on how to change your agent for the better, modifying your score to actually collect that score, and then over time seeing, are you increasing score from 0 to 1, and if you are consistently getting ones, then you're doing pretty good for yourself.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay. So you register your scores during your instance, and then you also have like the historical data that you can continue to run it against. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So scores here, you set them up on an agent, very similar. You can put all these different scores. You can say, at what rate do I want to do these? We consider these live evals. Live being they happen asynchronously after a turn with an agent. So all of these will run 100% of the time because we ratioed that way. But you can also do offline in the sense that I can come here and I can create a data set. I'll just make a fake one.
Oh, let's do it.
And within this, I can just add items that are the inputs and outputs, like what is the weather in Paris? It's hot AF. Let's just say. This should be message, I believe. And this also should be, I don't know, result. Let's see. And it might validate these things. Must be valid JSON. Well, it's always a live demo when it's a live demo.
This is how we know it's real.
In any case, if that worked for whatever reason, you could have a bunch of inputs and outputs that you want to add or you want to test over time. So actually I can go to our trace view and I can add this to our data set here. And I will add this to the fake data set. And you know what, let's go add some more things to our data set. So what is the weather in Paris? Let's use a different model. Let's just use 4.0. Why not? RIP.
Let's see. It's thinking. Someone in the
Thinking
chat say he didn't like AF. That was it. Okay.
that's not too hot. And then what's the weather in San Francisco? So, as you're communicating with your agents, you're shipping them to production, you're going to gather a lot of different traces. And some traces will be signaled good and signaled bad. AKA, signal good means, wow, the agent really responded well. I should
Mhm.
use that for a test item going forward. So I know that given the same scenario, it's always going to respond well in that scenario. But then there's also some example bads where it did not do well, and you want to make sure you have those. So here, now we have items in our data set. We can run experiments on them, and I can just run this agent. I can select my weather agent, and I can select the score. Let's just use the translation quality, and I can run that. And so now it's going to take those inputs and output or input items and then run the agent on them. And then maybe I change something in my agent, I can iterate on it, and then I can just start running these over time. So it scored 1, it'll probably score 1 on all of them. All of them were scored. So that's kind of cool. And this is what people are doing now with us. Like we just released these experimentation features. And so people are getting really excited about building their data sets up, getting non-software engineers involved,
Mhm.
because a lot of companies are, there's software engineering teams for a subject matter expert company. So for example, if you're a vet clinic, your engineers are not veterinarians. So maybe the veterinarians should be the ones deciding what is good and bad in the data sets, and what is worth testing and what is worth not testing.
Wow, that is very fair. I was gonna ask you, and you actually just answered that question because there is a lot of like third-party tools that do evals, but you made it part of the framework, like as
Yeah, the,
infra in the framework.
yeah, the reason we wanted to, and no hate on any other tool,
Yeah.
but when you're using those tools, you're not actually as close to your code as possible. Like let's say you wrote a Mastra agent, but then you're doing evals in a different product. Well, we thought, these things should be connected, especially if, you're running the agent loop in Mastra. Well, the traces and the observability and the evals and the data sets should all be part of that loop as well. And so that was the decision we made. But you can use products like LangFuse, Langsmith, BrainTrust. We have exporters to everything. And this might be a good little thing we learned about open source. We may want to build our own things in open source, but we have to meet users where they are. And so,
Hmm.
for example, when we first started Mastra, we only supported libsql as a database, mainly because I thought libsql was cool, and I still do. But when someone asks you for Postgres, you can't say no. A lot of people are using Postgres. You want to meet users where they are. Not everyone's going to use Mastra observability. If they want to use LangFuse or BrainTrust, we should be 100% in support of that and make sure that they can. So the way we designed Mastra, I can go just do a little quick view here. This is the Mastra monorepo, and I'll just give you an example of how we do our code in a way that it is available for anyone to fork or extend. And the best way, I think, to show that off is storage. Mastra supports many storage adapters because you need to store data when you're running these applications, whether that's messages or traces or what have you. And so in Mastra, we have, let me go to the base. We designed everything as base classes. So we have these base storage domains. And so workflows have a storage domain, scores have a storage domain, even observability, etc. And if I go to one of these, you can see that it's all class interfaces. They're abstract classes. So if you wanted to bring your own database, you just implement the workflow storage with your own flavor of whatever the heck you want to do, and then you're off to the races. So we've designed kind of all of Mastra to be extendable via these class interfaces.
I appreciate that. I think that that's where a lot of platforms go wrong, trying to lock you into your choices. But
Yeah,
you gotta let developers choose what they want to do. That's fantastic. I love that, and you're doing that with evals, with observability, with storage.
correct.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Some other things we can note is our agents have memory by default. So memory is the ability to, it may seem kind of simple, but a conversation history is one way to do long-term memory. So as you can see, this conversation has all my messages. We have like a memory section here where you can add different types of memory. Semantic recall, which is the ability to use vector embeddings and search through the message history. We have working memory, which is a memory type where an agent can use uh, either a string or an object to write little notes for itself. And then we've just shipped a new memory, which is called observational memory. And I'll go and add that right now. Observational memory, true.
What does that do? What is observational memory? This is new to me.
So,
I wasn't familiar with that.
so observational memory is a new memory system we just released over a little bit over a month ago. And so a couple things we learned, actually was prepared for this, but if you want, we have this this obsession right now with building agents that never forget.
Yes.
And I just think it's such an interesting topic. I'm no neuroscientist or anything, but I really love how the human brain works. And right now, before we were working on observational memory, we were all using Claude Code. And every time we hit compaction in Claude Code, we felt like Claude got lobotomized. It just did not know what was going on. And we have this million context window. And at the time, it was a 200K context window. And you just feel like after compaction, the journey you went on with Claude, it's always all for lost, because you're kind of starting over. And many people had I'm just going to start a new session. Every time compaction happens, the old session doesn't matter. And we just like, okay, this is a weird problem. Let's think about it. So we know that LLMs can process so much information, but the memory over the long session is actually worse than a human's. Because I can still remember what happened this week, even though it was a spicy week.
Mm-hmm.
I probably remember it more than my coding agent does. And so we think that these things are kind of related, like there's so much stuff that goes into agent context and there's so much noise. But what you really want is the agent to make sure it knows and keeps the signal, right? I may have a bunch of tool calls to book flights or search for flights, but the main observation here is I'm trying to go to New York City, and that's really what matters. All this other stuff is just polluting the context window.
Mm-hmm.
And so the common solution to this, which many people do, is you extract the signal from the user message, right? I say I'm trying to go to New York City. It's going to go search the conversation history to find the right messages to build the context window dynamically. And that's cool. But it invalidates the prompt cache. And what you want when if you want to save some money, you want to make sure that your prompts are cacheable, so you're not paying the same price. There's a different price for prompt or cache tokens versus input and output. Sorry, input. So we figured LLMs never build rich continuous pictures, especially if you keep starting new sessions. And if you're always dynamically injecting this information, it's always in a single turn situational for that one moment, but you kind of want a holistic view of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have too much signal, how do you decide what doesn't matter anymore? For humans, a lot of biggest thing that allows us to compress is that time, right? Things that happened 5 years ago, obviously, maybe don't matter anymore. And time is one way you can decide what doesn't matter, emphasis, your emotion, etc. So like this is like a typical retrieval pattern that people will use. You get a user message, you embed it, you put it into a vector database, you re-rank it, you inject it, and you hit an LLM. And this is kind of how it works. So you're just chatting with your agent every time you are just retrieving context from your database, and then you're injecting it. And pretty much this may be efficient, but it's not cost effective, right? Especially if you're paying input tokens for everything you're doing. So that's one example. So Tyler Barnes on our team, he really dove into this problem, and it's honestly shout out to him. I'm just a figurehead for talking about it right now. Um, he had this insight, like, humans are really good at like filtering out noise. And what we can do is we can thrive, like as humans, we thrive with lossy memory. We don't necessarily need all of the data to then figure something out. We just need, high level pointers or clear events that have happened. And agents right now, they need a lot of like hand holding there. So we thought, it's forgetting a feature. If you look at your common day, you do all these things, but the things that stay are the events that matter. And the things that you forget are things that don't, right? Like I don't
Irrelevant.
really remember tying my shoes
Hmm.
today. I probably did, or it's not important. But I do remember I had to come on this podcast, and I'm going to remember later that it was a great podcast, right? Or live stream. So those are the kind of things that we wanted to model it. So we wanted to model agents this way. So we built it. It works pretty well. And how it works is we have 3 agents. So your main agent, like the one that I showed in our studio, this is the main agent. We call it the actor. And these other 2 agents are we call the observer and the reflector. And we think it's the subconscious mind of your agent. It is these 2 agents that are always watching the conversation history, making
Okay.
observations, and then compressing things into events. So you don't necessarily need full context. So this is how it works. I'll just show this version of it. And
And this is
so
three separate agents, right? Three different
correct,
agents tackling the
correct,
same memory problem. Okay. Go.
correct. And then it's all running in the background. So as you can see, as messages come in, these observations get buffered up. As soon as you hit a token threshold, usually we set it around 30K tokens because we're
Okay.
trying to do more with less. It will then take the message history, compress it into these event-based observations, and then now this observation list is in your system prompt, and you only need to take messages that you have not observed yet. And so what this allows us to do is you have something that's very cacheable, and it actually works very well in terms of recall. And how we kind of figured that out is we did a benchmark called the long mem eval. It's a 500 questions, and it has tons of data, like 57 million tokens of data. And essentially it's like a question answer with an agent. And the model has to find all the right information. And so we benchmarked it against other memory products that are on the market, and we did really well. This benchmark is quite old. It uses GPT-4o as the base model, which I did say RIP GPT-4o, even though we just used it. Um,
Yeah.
it's like a nice baseline though, because if you can score well on a bad, quote unquote, bad model, old model, then what would you be able to do in a new one? So in our results, we got around 84.2%, which is like, pretty solid.
That
This
is
is across the
impressive.
board. But then we thought, okay, what if you start adding really good models? So we did GPT-5 Mini, scored like 94.9%, Gemini 3 Pro, and everyone in this list is good. It's just our new strategy is kind of helping out in different areas. So these are the areas. And once again, it makes sense that these are the areas because this feels more human to me. Temporal reasoning is thinking about things in the aspect of time. That's such a human thing to do because we're looking at the clock, right? So I think that was really interesting how we scored high. knowledge update, when we learn new things, we should unbias the old things we know and start biasing new things we know. And then multiple sessions, like you are, as a human, we are multi-session in our lives. Talking to you right now, talking to a friend, I didn't change as a person. I have to maintain context between these sessions. So it was really cool to go through all of this. And yeah, and Gemini 3 did pretty well there as well.
That's
Okay,
impressive.
I'll stop
What
for questions. That was a lot.
No, that's super because honestly, this is so timely because that the problem of persistent memory, like especially now there's a lot more people tinkering with agents for their own things and they want to be able to offload the things that don't matter. Like what
Yeah,
the exercise you just showed us of like, I'm not going to remember the door that came through, but I know I came into the office. Like it's an important how I walked in kind of thing.
yeah.
That's super, super interesting. And so you have three agents on this job now. Um, you mentioned something that is super relevant to me right now. I've been reading a lot about this and doing my own experimentations with memory because of cost.
Yes.
And you mentioned something about the cost of cache versus input for tokens. And I guess that is the reason why we should be thinking about this problem, especially when we're building agents for scale. Like you want your agents to feel human when they're, especially like a support bot. I'd much rather not
Yes.
have to repeat to you, I'm trying to find a flight to New York. And
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
had this conversation already. So thinking about cost, obviously, like what's one massive application, but the human angle of it and thinking about approaching it like from the point of view of how a person does it is super fascinating to me. What do you see in people experimenting with this? How old is observational memory? Like you said, it's about a
Um,
month old.
yeah, we released it in February, and
Okay.
this is our research post. Y'all can take a look.
Yes, please.
And it's all deep dive on how it works and everything. And people have built their own versions of observational memory in like Python. We're going to be building out a more generic library, so like anyone in TypeScript can use it. You don't have to be a Mastra user. It's completely open source,
Beautiful.
and it's super fun. Like I've been in the same. Oh, I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but like with this, I've been in the same coding session for a month.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. So because see, we're moving beyond compacting. And like what you mentioned earlier, and I'm gonna drop a link on the chat about how Copilot handles memory, because it's a new thing for us as well. Like
Hmm.
because of the same reason. Like you don't want to lose the context of sessions, being able to resume sessions and compact them for expenses for whatever reason. It makes a lot of sense. But you've been coding the same session for a month using
Yeah,
observational memory. And it's working out, obviously
it's
you're not
working out.
feeling any kind of degradation, and you're still coming out fresh. I love
Yeah, I
that.
used to be so into doing Git work trees.
Yeah.
And I still am. I just wanted to test myself and see how far this can go. So I don't even use Git worktrees anymore. I just try to accomplish one task at a time as fast as possible, then switch context within the same uh, session, fix that, and then over time you're overlapping in code areas, right? And I have not missed a beat. So it's been pretty amazing to use.
I appreciate that. I think if you would have said that to me 6 months ago, I would have hopped in a soapbox about Git work trees myself.
Yeah.
But I find myself not using them as much anymore because of this, because now we
Yeah.
have the possibility, and like the linear path might be the best path. This is awesome. Let me take a look at the chat and see
Sure.
if there are any questions from folks. There were questions about whether it's open source. Of course, it is. When you were doing the demo, the studio is part of the project. Yes, that is open source. So when
Hmm.
you're testing out Mastra, if you want to go in and create your agents, like yes, this is the framework. What you're seeing here is what you're working with, and it is free to use. Um, a comment about being TypeScript first, and definitely because frameworks are for sure shaping the way that we're doing things now. I don't think there's any questions that are super relevant right now. Friends, if you want to ask a question about Abhi, please drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we can carry on with the demo, but this has been fantastic. Uh,
Awesome. So I want to, okay, switch gears now. I mean, it's the same gear, but we're gonna go into a different perspective. Now, agents today, I feel like we're in a coding agent era right now. When we got into Y Combinator, many agents that people were building were for human workforce. For example,
Mm-hmm.
replacing the back of office of a small business, or trying to replace accountants and these things. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, writing evals is very hard. To truly replace a human, you have to come correct. You cannot have any mistakes. And so it's a very hard task. And what I think has happened is coding agents do not require the same rigor because we are the tastemakers of the thing that we're using. Plus, we can decide not to push the code or commit the code. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've seen this huge expansion. It's like a Cambrian explosion of coding agents and coding products. Copilot, obviously, Claude Code, Open Code, Droid, all these different ways to write more code. So it almost feels like they're trying to replace us first. It feels like. And whether that be the case or not, in Mastra, we want people to be able to do whatever they want to do. So I'm going to turn this weather agent into a coding agent
Wait
with
a
a couple lines
minute.
of code. Yeah, just a couple lines of code, and I'll turn this into a coding agent. So we have some primitives to turn yourself into a coding agent, or your agent into a coding agent, and we can do that with a local file system and a local sandbox. And I can also get a workspace. So workspaces in Mastra are a collection of a file system and a sandbox put together to allow your agent to read and write files, execute untrusted code, as well as leverage skills, right? Claude skills or agent skills. So let's make this workspace happen. Once again, workspace is an interface. You can extend it. And let's do sandbox. And let's do file system. Oops. I haven't tabbed in a long time. What is this? Base path, workspace. So simple as that. I can also have a skills path. I think this is an array. Let's just say it's dot agent skills or something. Or is it skills dir? I forget. I forget all the time. That's why TypeScript's great, because I can just see what's in here.
There you go.
If it's skills, agent skills. Cool, it was an array. So take this workspace, and I'm going to pass it to my agent. And
Okay.
because
So
I have a studio, oh, go ahead.
no, no, no. I just wanted to clarify. Like the primitives were there. You just gave it within the workspace the tools that it needed, and then you gave it the execution, right? Like I missed that bit. If you gave it the, was there a? Let me see. File space, workspace. Okay, 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 okay. And then of
I
course
could,
sandbox.
yeah, I could get a sandbox from E to B or Daytona or you name it, modal, etc. And file system, I could mount a file system from Google Cloud Storage, S3, but for the sake of the demo, we'll just use my local machine and let it YOLO.
Perfect.
So I passed the agent, workspace to an agent. Cool. And now, if you see on the right here, we have all these workspace tools. And these just magically get added. So now your agent is able to read and write files. So let's actually say, can you write the Tokyo weather to an MD file for me, please? Call the weather tool. Fun.
Okay.
Now it's going to write the file. So you can see here, and it saved it. Okay, that's cool. Well, I want to go look at this. So let me go to the workspaces tab. And here we are, Tokyo weather. That's awesome. Why don't we add some skills, huh? So in Mastra, we support skills once you have a workspace. you can go and find skills that you like. For example, this is all the skills that are on a website called skills.sh. And I believe there's like something called a skill creator. We can try it out. I don't know if it'll work, but here's a skill creator. You can see what it does. It helps creating a skill. Let's install it. Cool. Now we have that skill. And let's go back to our weather coding agent thing. You can see now we have skills here on the right. So this is the
Okay.
signal. Help me write a skill for telling the weather. Let's keep on brand here today.
Okay. So what you're doing now is you're using the coding agent that you just created to create a skill to do the thing that it just did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which very meta, I think. But
I love it. Listen, if you show me that you publish a skill to skills that is like, well, actually it's not. It's picked up automatically, right? Like it's like an automatic thing.
yeah.
But you should be able to, right? If you have MCP in there, you should be able to like create a repo, publish it, send it on this way. Look at
And
that.
this thing is making like a script to fetch the weather. So now like, this is just like next level. It's like, whoa, like how crazy is that? That's just amazing. Let's go back here. Let's see if we have our skills. Here's like our skill there. And that's all cool. I should say you need to write it to the skills path dot agents skills. Oops, I forgot another API token. But as you can see, this observational memory was running. And you can see it was trying to do stuff, but I forgot an API key, so that's my bad. But at least you can see that it is running in the background. Cool, it's writing a file. It's all good. I think if we go back to our workspace, should be somewhere. Oh, it's right here. Weather skill.
Ha ha
Pretty
ha
cool,
ha.
huh?
That is very cool.
So let's take it a step further than this. Okay, so as I said, if you want to build a coding agent, you should. We have a coding agent, and you can get that from npm Mastra code. This might have some problem because I don't really use npm that often. I use pnpm, so it'll probably do something stupid.
We'll try it out.
Try it out.
Let's try it out.
Knew it. I just have to delete this path. Yeah, I don't know. This is the reason I don't use npm. Cool. And now let's just run Mastra code. Cool. So now you have a coding agent that's more focused than the weather, the fake one I just made, with real system prompts on how to be a coding agent powered by our observational memory. So like when I was saying that I've been in a session for a month, I'm in one of these sessions. So I can say, what's up? Actually, first, let's set up some observational memory things. Here, you can set up your observer and reflector models. I'm using Haiku. That's chill. And then
What are
I'm going
those
to say,
thresholds? Those thresholds are for you, like what your expense is, or
the threshold is like, I'm going to wait. I'm only going to start observing if the conversation history
reaches that? Okay,
reaches that.
got
And
it.
then to compress it even more, it has to hit 40K of observations already made. So you're constantly trying to compress down, and then keep the context window like without rot. So then what I usually like to do is like, please deep research this code base, understand what we did, and finally make no mistakes.
All right, with the
And
thread.
so you can see you can see that when I installed this, I installed a Mastra skill, which allows you. So this is, imagine if you were working on a Mastra project yourself, there's a Mastra skill here that teaches the agent and steers it in a way to know what the framework does. And then, so this loaded the framework guide, and now it's reading stuff. It's reading the package JSON. It's going to go and understand what all is in this, just reading a bunch of files. And it has a complete picture. It's going to give me this information. And I think I'm going to have it build me another agent for fun.
Okay.
Let's
Listen, but
build.
this is very interesting though, because you're like, you created a space where you can build the agents or becoming an agent itself. My brain, my mind is blown. No, this is very, very interesting. So what surprised me, you just gave
Yeah,
that. Okay. All right.
surprise me. And so as you can see, like we've built, so this Mastra code is open source as well. It
Nice.
uses a base class, and that's the theme of the talk today, base classes and interfaces. It uses a base class interface of what we call a harness, and a harness is a very popular word in AI engineering right now. And so if you want to build your own coding agent or Claude code, you could extend that harness, use Mastra agents, and you'll get a lot of this out of the box stuff. For example, the harness allows you to have a task list. It'll ask you to, you can ask questions. This whole Claude code or Claude Cowork UX gets built in by default when you're building with this harness abstraction. And yeah, it's just been really cool to like take open source to its fullest, because a lot of these other tools are closed source, and we just kind of wanted to like pull back the curtain, and
Thank
you
you.
can build
Yes.
your
And
own.
expensive. Yeah, for sure. But this has a really nice buttery feel to it. I love it. I love so completely open source. And basically when I can create this and create as many agents as I want
Yep.
in Mastra.
Yeah, and then you
Amazing.
can deploy it to your favorite hosting provider,
Hmm.
because Mastra can run as a server, or you could use it in Next.js or whatever server that you're trying to run. But Mastra itself, the thing that powers the studio, behind it is a Mastra server. So if you wanted to have let's call it an AI microservice, you could deploy just Mastra stuff by itself, and you can put that on AWS or Next.js or whatever. And then now you're in the game. All these agents are on the internet, and you're off to the races.
Amazing. Amazing. What did it surprise you with then? What's a globetrotter agent? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess it'll help plan trips, I guess.
Okay. I like it. You think, and that was a deduction from the having the context of the
Yeah.
conversation you just had. That's why it chose that.
Yeah,
That's
based
very
on the weather
interesting.
agent that already existed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Um, we're coming up on time. I want to make
Yep.
sure that we tell people how they can get started, and I want to share the Discord. Where is your community at? I know there is a Discord instance which is very active. I think all of you are in
Yes.
there, um, chatting with folks. So I'm sharing that right now on the comments. So folks, go ahead and join. How can people get started contributing to the project if they want to? What kind of contributions would you like to see? This is a lot though. Like I had no idea there was so much in Mastra. Like it's gonna be a fun weekend for me.
Yeah. I mean, we've been around for a year, so imagine what we can do in another year.
It's
Um,
wild.
in terms of finding us, Discord, very active. We're all there chatting. On Mondays, we do a live stream ourselves. It's called the AI Agents Hour. It's at 12 p.m. PST. You can find it on YouTube if you look up Mastra AI. On Thursdays, every Thursday, we do a workshop where we teach these concepts. You can find that on Luma for Mastra AI. That we talked about harnesses this week. The previous week, we talked about Mastra code and memory. Next week, we're talking about multi-agents. So if you want to learn something every week, come see us there. And then finally, you can follow Mastra on Twitter or X, I mean. You can follow me, my co-founder Shane, and Sam. Just follow all of us. We retweet and post a bunch of stuff, and we don't troll that often.
I like the disclaimer, not that
Yeah.
often. Beautiful. Well, we
Yeah.
got folks already joining the Discord. Um, I'm gonna check out your streams. It sounds super, super interesting. Definitely listen, friends, if you're working with this, like understanding what a harness is gonna take you a long way. So, and
Yeah.
we haven't talked about this a lot, honestly. I know I definitely haven't. But the ways that you can make this effectively work for you. And you brought up a super excellent point about how when we first started working, even 3 months ago, 4 months ago, it was agent to help Abby. Like it was, I
Yeah.
was building an agent so that Abby could work with it. But now we're moving to a spectrum that we need to build agents to help other agents, and it's a
Yes.
completely different scenario. So that's super super interesting. Very timely question. What does the future of Mastra look like? What's in the roadmap? What are you working on that you can share?
So we have like three pillars that we're going to be continuing to work on. One is memory. There's just so much to explore, and we're so interested in it. So we're going to keep going down the memory path. I'm sure observational memory is going to get some power ups. So that's cool. Two, observability. While people think it's just traces and evals and things, I really want the scientific method to be automated for users. Maybe you don't have to care about writing evals and improving your agent. Maybe another agent is responsible for that. And then lastly, community. I am so paranoid that the community will go away. So we will continue investing in it and making it the best. We have a conference coming up in
Oh,
April
no way.
9th.
Nice.
Yes, in San Francisco. It's called TSAI Demo Days. You're going to see a lot of companies who have taken not just Mastra, could be any agent into production. That'll be live streamed as well. So more community events like that, expect those to come.
I appreciate that support, and that's really what makes open source open source. So thank you for keeping the emphasis on community and putting on all these educational things, taking the time to be here. Like, friends, we had the CTO of the company demoing it for us. Come on now. Thank you. I mean, this has been delightful. Thank you so much for taking the time to come by. I'll be sure to add all of the links that we share in the comments to the description. For the folks who join a little bit later, and maybe missed the beginning of the transmission, I'm gonna post a YouTube link for where you'll be able to see it, but I actually made a short link for it. So it's gh.io/Mastra, and that's gonna take you to the YouTube stream, and you'll be able to see it there. It started from the beginning. You definitely do not want to miss everything that we talked about. Thank you so much, Abhi. This was
Of
great.
course. Yeah, thanks for
Uh,
having me. It's so much fun.
Come back.
Yeah,
Please
would love
come
to
back.
anytime.
Amazing. Thank you. Friends, let's give some sparkles to Abhi. Be sure to follow Abhi on Twitter. He promised not to troll us too much.
Yeah,
Not all the time, anyways. But you guys are putting out such amazing content. Like this book is such a good gem of a little book, honestly. So thank you for putting out all those resources and do it free and open and for all of us to have access to it. So thank you, Abhi. Have a great day.
of course. Yeah, thank you.
How good was that? I, for one, look forward to experimenting with observational memory this weekend. I've been going round and round in circles trying to do things like this myself when there is a brilliant open source project that's doing it already. Love that. Love the possibility of you creating your own agents and sort of examining that new frontier of like the agent to agent. Like what he just mentioned at the very last bits of our conversation, how maybe you shouldn't, or it will reach a point where the humans don't need to be concerned with the evals, and there will be agents that will be optimizing that for us. And I 100% believe in that. This has been fantastic. Thank you all so much for joining Open Source Friday. Thank you for supporting open source. Let's see. Let's make sure that I'm not missing any links. I giving you the links to the repository. Please don't forget to go by the repository and drop some stars, drop some love to Mastra via stars. It is a free way that you can support this project. Go drop a star if you haven't yet. Join their Discord server. I've been in it kind of like lurking. They are very active. They are all in there answering questions and interacting with the community. And I really appreciate that this company is keeping the focus on community and all of us, giving us all these resources. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a notification for when Open Source Friday is on. It's been my pleasure to be here with you today. I'm going to share so you can make my little slice of hell. I mean, make my interactions on Twitter better if I get to talk to all of you. So please follow me there. And yes, the link to the book, let me find it quickly. It's a phenomenal little book. I think I remember now where it was. It was a render ATL, and I think it was their CPO or someone from their company was there, and he was passing them around. And I think they actually done a newer edition. I think this version online is an update from what I have in hard copy, but it's very easy to digest. And if you are coming into this new paradigm, like you're figuring out the way that you're going to incorporate. Earlier I saw a question like, can I add an agent to my app? Of course you can. Like it's unlimited what you can do now. Should you? That's a conversation for another Open Source Friday. Maybe we should dig into that. Like when is a good time for something to be an agent versus a skill versus a documentation. Anyways, thank you all so much for being here. I posted the link to the book. Check it out. It's really a great book. Go on and give a follow to Abhi on X. And I'll see you next week for another Open Source Friday. Thank you for being here. Let me leave you with let's leave you with a jingle. You know, I gotta look through my scroll of things. Oh, I'll bring you in the very timely topic of developer choice. I am proud to say that GitHub is very focused on that. And this video that follows is proof of that. Thank you for being here. Catch you next time.
With GitHub Copilot, you can shift your development tasks from sequential to simultaneous with the agent of your choice in Agent HQ. The Agents tab on GitHub is where you can manage all your cloud agent sessions. From here, you can assign ad hoc tasks to Copilot, to Claude by Anthropic, to Codex, or to a custom agent. We can also use this tool to monitor our tasks, all from one centralized location on GitHub. Now, most change requests come via issues, and you can assign issues directly to an agent like Copilot, Codex, or Claude. Choose the branch you wish to use as the base, and again the agent you want, and let the agent do the rest. Inspiration can strike from anywhere, including away from your desktop. We can manage agents and even assign tasks right from GitHub Mobile. Given that developers spend the bulk of their time in an IDE, it's natural to expect to have access to the same functionality from there. In VS Code, you can orchestrate all your agent sessions, local and cloud, from your IDE. Just like before, we can assign to Claude or Codex or to Copilot using a custom agent or specified model. These tools allow you to assign and manage parallel coding agent sessions all within your existing workflow.